Okay, welcome to Science of Flight, Chapter 2, Lesson 5. Before we go through this lesson, we're going to have a public speaking cadet here, Cadet Hetherington. And you are on, sir.
All right, hey guys, I'm Cadet Hetherington, and after high school, I want to go to the Naval Academy. That's my plan A, and study engineering there. I don't know what engineer yet, but I will figure it out. But my plan B also is to go to Florida State. They have contacted me already to teach shooting clinics because I'm a competitive pistol shooter, and I would get on their shooting team, and that would be super fun. I might be able to get scholarship through that. And also after that, I want to go to, I want to be in the military, either Army or Navy, and I want to be an engineer. And if I can't be an engineer, I'll be a shooting instructor, and I'll have a military career after high school, basically. And to prepare myself for this stuff, I've been taking good grades. I have good grades. I'm taking tests like the ACT, SAT, ASVAB, all that good stuff. And my dad's work. There's this guy, and for the Naval Academy, he does like the interviews for all the new people coming. And I'm talking to him a bunch and getting sort of excited. Why I want to go to the Naval Academy is because it's a super prestigious college, and my uncle was in the Navy as a corpsman, and so I sort of want to go to the Naval Academy because it's going to be really awesome there. And then, or my backup is Florida State, and like shooting is all I love to do, so that'd be so fun to be in college and go shooting all the time. And they have engineering there, so I could still be an engineer there. So for the military career, I've always wanted a career in the military. It's just like what I've loved to do and stuff. And so I really want to do that because it's going to be awesome. Because that's what I love to do. And then to prepare myself, again, I've done tests and grades and athletics. I'm on the varsity orienteering team, and I stay fit. And in conclusion, these are my 3 main points on what I want to do after high school and what I'm doing to prepare myself. And also, if I don't, my backup of my plan B is to go to NAU on an Army scholarship as an engineer and then get a job as an engineer. All right.
Yay! Okay, Cadet Reed, please. Constructive criticism.
Cadet Hetherington, I think your speech was pretty well done. I think you go a little bit further with some of your steps you're going to take. Maybe do a little bit more and put a little more thought into it.
Thank you, Cadet Reed. I'll take that constructive criticism into consideration for my next speech.
Cadet Todd.
Cadet Hetherington, I thought your speech was good. You did go back to some points that you said previously, but besides that, it was good.
Thank you, Cadet Todd. I'll take that into consideration for my next speech.
All righty, everybody give a round of applause, please. Okie dokie. We are now on Chapter 2, Lesson 5, Effects of Weather on Aircraft. Please open up your books to 192, 193. Yes, ma'am. Did you have to go? Yes. Go ahead. Cadet McKinney, can you please look up there and tell me when this class is over with, the new schedule? 10:05. Okay, so give me a hands up at 10 o'clock, okay? All right, guys, this this lesson actually is the end of Chapter 2 about weather. This basically talks about the different hazards that we have already gone over, from ice to poor weather to how it affects the actual flight of the flight characteristics of planes and the effects it has on aircraft in flight. If you look at the vocabulary on page 193, anti-ice, flame out, wind chill, clear ice, rime ice, mixed ice, radio silence, infrared, toga. Ooh, toga. What is toga besides a Roman outfit, right? What is toga?
Take off.
Keep going. You're trying real hard there, Cody.
It's,
Take off landing.
What is it?
Gear.
it's a command that crews use to abort a landing and start, take off, go around.
Take off and go around. Toga. Toga, toga, toga. Is that what the pilot's saying? Yes, this means that the plane is coming into land and something is dangerous or something is not right, or the pilot messed up, or there may be a plane on the runway, and the pilot makes the command decision to take off and go around. It means go around. Has anybody ever been in a plane that's had to do this? Yes?
It was during a pretty bad, big old cloud. There's a bunch of clouds that we had to go around because.
So you were coming into land, and all of a sudden you heard the engine spool up, and you went off and came back around and landed again.
Because it was a bad rainstorm right around it.
Okay? Is it a dangerous thing to do a toga? Toga. Is that dangerous? No, it's not dangerous. It's the perfectly fantastic thing to do. Like I said, when you're looking out at the wings and you see them flapping up and down, that is a good thing, because that means that all the science and aeronautical engineering and the flexing and the fatigue and the design of the plane, the spars, is working correctly. When you have a pilot who is smart enough to realize this is unsafe, I screwed up, the weather screwed up, the controller put a plane in my way, and he pushes the power and he goes around, that truly shows a lot of maturity and a lot of good decision making. And that's a good thing to go do a toga versus try to land in a dangerous situation. Just recently, didn't we have a crash in San Francisco? Do y'all remember that? Who crashed? Why?
It was a big plane.
Big plane, yes. Why did it crash?
Because, weather.
Nope, not weather at all.
I thought I had too much angle or something like that.
Yes, it was a automated landing, and the pilots did not monitor the speed. And I think it was after a long flight. I think it was China, right, or something like that. It came from China. It was landing, and the pilots got too slow and too low. So what should they have done?
Went high.
Toga. They should have gone around, because they should have said, hey, this is not looking good. We are too slow and too low. What happened was they drug the tail in and hit the embankment of right next to the water, right? Tore the tail off and killed some people. A lot of people lived. But anyway, wouldn't it have been a lot better for him to be embarrassed and go, hey, I messed this up, and toga, and come back around and try it again, okay? So that's really, really, really what they want to do. Okay, guys, start reading Lesson 5 here. I want you to go through and just skim through and look at all the vocabulary in the yellow marker so I can ask you about the vocabulary. Let's overview the chapter. Look at all the yellow vocabulary words. Just flip through and look at all the yellow highlight words, guys. Okay, how about the person at the table with their birthday closest to 12th of November? Tell me one word that they learned. Oh gosh, look around the table. Who's got the closest birthday to 12th of November? Okay, and look down and tell me one word that you've learned. Raise your hand. Cody, everybody quiet, please.
Dice.
Dice? Is it called dice, like you roll dice?
Dice is
De-ice.
D-O.
Hey, everybody quiet, please, quiet.
De-ice is to remove ice buildup from an aircraft structure, generally with heated fluid.
De-ice. Do we think that that's very important?
Yes.
Well, how does ice affect a airfoil?
It gets heavy when the wind can't. Aerodynamics don't do its job as well if there's ice buildup.
I am so glad you brought that up. Let me show you a little picture here that you guys don't remember, but it is quite a very important part of aviation history, how ice affects flight. January in D.C., Washington, D.C. What's the weather like January in Washington, D.C.?
Snowy.
Snowy and miserable and cold, wet. And guess what? They had a snowstorm came through, and there was snow falling, and a plane decided to take off. The plane was actually from Florida, Air Florida. How much snow do you think Air Florida planes actually?
Like 0.
That was a factor. These pilots were not used to flying in snow, but they took off with ice on their planes. And guess what? As soon as they took off with ice on their planes, all of a sudden the lifties were not on the plane. There were more draggies on the plane because it was an unstable boundary across your airfoil. The Bernoullis did not work. And we had a big, big crash. It took off downtown D.C. There's an airport called National. This is it literally ran into a huge bridge downtown D.C. right across from the Lincoln Memorial. There's some very famous pictures, which I'm not sure are here on Google, of actually commuters getting out of their cars, right here on the right actually, getting out of the cars from the rush hour and diving into icy river to save lives. So here you are driving home, you're a commuter, you do this every day, and you see a plane crash, and you see people dying in front of you. And there's some very famous pictures of again, people in suits diving into the water to actually save people's lives. Look at them right there. And you see ice. Do you see ice in that river? That's cold. Yes, sir.
When we were at the Lincoln Memorial, our guide actually took us over and showed us where it actually crashed.
Yeah, that was a pretty significant thing. As a result of this crash, of course, they changed around a lot of the de-icing procedures, and they actually now go through these huge spray barns and spray de-ice on top of the planes right before they take off. So it was a pretty credible thing. It was a lot of people died. Not everybody died, because I'm telling you, the commuters jumped out of the car and saved people's lives. It was incredible. And so that's where de-ice. Next, give me another word. What's another word? Yes, Cadet Smith.
Buffett.
Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett.
Is that Jimmy Buffett, my favorite player? Is that who it is? What's he doing in this?
No, sir.
Well, I'm sorry. What does Buffett mean?
Vibration of the plane.
Vibration of a plane. Why would a plane be buffeting?
When it's about to start.
When it's about to stall.
Turbulence too.
Yes, turbulence. And you start to go maybe through you think that, matter of fact, this is another thing, we just talked about it, the Chinese, I can't say Chinese airliner, but the China-based airline that crashed in San Francisco. When you start to stall in these big planes, what happens to the control column? What is a control column?
It's the device in the cockpit that pilot uses to control the pitch and roll. Also known
Yes,
as
the control column is what drives the plane, right?
It gets harder to pull up and go down.
And so when the plane starts to get ready to crash, what happens in the buffet is they actually have, it's called a shaker. The whole thing will start shaking like this. So the plane may be buffeting, but the pilot, these are huge planes. They're sometimes as big as a football field. You can't even tell what's happening out in the wings. But you and the pilot, they'll have an artificial rattling or shaking of the control column so that you'll know that you are buffeting and you're getting ready to stall. And what was interesting is in some other plane crashes lately, is the pilots ignored them. They go, oh, it's not bad. It was shaking. It really does shake that violently. And one of the planes I flew did the same type of thing. And actually, there was another, I believe it was Air France, a plane that flew from France down to South America, and they flat stalled at 40,000 feet. They messed up, and it was buffeting, and the pilots did not recognize it and did not recover properly, and they crashed. So, good point. Give me another. What's another word we had learned about? Cadet Arietta.
Dead stick landing.
Dead stick landing. What's that?
Land without power.
Gee, can you do a dead stick landing?
Yes, sir.
And
They don't fry out.
I don't recommend it, sir.
It's just gonna hurt.
A dead stick landing. I tell you what, let me show you this. This is actually a very famous one, a dead stick landing. I did not know the person who did this, but this is a, this is F-16. Okay, this is an example of an F-16. This is called the heads-up display. When you're a fighter pilot, you look out through your windscreen, and you have this display here. I'm not going to get into the complications, but essentially, over here on the left is his airspeed, and over here right is his altitude. Everything else in here has to do with weapons delivery and shooting people. This is where the plane is actually going to your velocity vector. And so what's happened in this exact situation is pretty famous. His engine went out. How many engines does the F-16 have? Two, one, three. One. So what happens to the F-16 when you have a simple single engine failure? What happens to F-16? It becomes a rock. It falls out of the sky. How many engines does a rock have? None. So an F-16 turns into a rock, okay? I'm just kidding. It's not a rock. It does glide a little bit. It's like a leaf, okay? How many engines is a... So this poor guy does not have an engine, and he is coming to land. The good news is he's very close to a runway. And in general, I'm telling you, if you're in a plane with an ejection seat and God takes away all your engines, in general, God gave you an ejection seat and you generally eject. Okay, I mean, you're supposed to use that ejection seat to save your pink body.
That's a really expensive plane.
And this guy did not. He chose to go for it. And I'm telling you, I don't know. I think this may have been one of the only ones that ever lived through it. And that's why we have it on YouTube. All right, so here we go. Go for it, guys. Quiet.
Can you be?
Listen to their volume and how nervous he is.
This cloud the cumulative miss.
Never happened before. Okay, so see, he's got a wingman, right? So he's a single engine plane with no engine. He's got a wingman who's directing everything. When you have an emergency and you're very stressed, it's hard to talk. And so in general, in the fighter world, If a guy has an emergency, he takes care of his plane, he flies, and the wingman or the flight lead would coordinate everything on the radio for him. And that's exactly what this did. So this guy lived not only because he was good and he did the right thing, but he also had an awesome flight lead or wingman who did everything else for him. He didn't have anything else but fly the plane. And you were asking about the question about the clouds. You're an Arizona guy, and everywhere else in the world, guess what? There are clouds, okay? And there are clouds everywhere, and this is a very standard day. This is Elizabeth City, which is on the east coast, right near Kitty Hawk, actually, in North Carolina. It's a Coast Guard station. I've flown over it, and I've landed there before, just south of Norfolk, Virginia. Yes, sir?
Why can't you see? He's in really thick cloud cover, so he can't see.
No. This is not thick. Listen to my words. There are clouds everywhere else in the world, okay? You guys are Arizona guys that look out 98 miles and see a 14,000-foot mountain. This is normal weather. This is good weather everywhere else in the world. It's just haze. You look through it, you see the thing down there, okay? Visibility is 2 to 3 miles everywhere else in the world, not 98, okay? So maybe I'll educate you about that in clouds before we leave here.
In the woods. You want to get us your tanks? Go ahead and get your tanks off now. Okay, tanks are off.
We just talked about that. What kind of tanks? What is he talking about, tanks?
Fuel tanks.
I'm telling you, if y'all went to Luke Air Force Base last week, you saw F-16 sitting with fuel tanks out there, and when emergency gets along, you push a button and go poof, and they go away. Is he going to drop it on top of your head?
Yes, sir.
He could. The good news is Elizabeth City is out over a bunch of marsh and muck and intercoastal waterway, and there's 99% chance that he's dropping it in the water, and it's not going to hurt anybody at all. What if he's flying over downtown Phoenix, and he punches off the tanks, and he goes down there and kills your mother in a bus?
Nukes the skull.
That's a bad day, okay? But again, he's trying to save himself, and that stuff has never happened, but it could. All right, so anyway, he's really getting set up. He's at 250 some odd knots. He's at what, 3,000 feet? I promise you, this is by the water. The ground is 0. It's not 6,000 feet like here. So he's going down. This is coming up at the very end. You can hear his breathing, getting nervous. Let's see if he makes it.
Gears coming down.
Just put the gear down.
Elizabeth City, he's starting a right base down. There's around on runway 10. Craft going, if anybody want to decide runway 10 is clear with 0705, clear to land. He is an emergency. His engine out, his gear is down, he should fire. Good. Got 3 green. You're doing good. You got 3 green.
Okay, you see that? That is a good feeling. Because here's the runway. He has no thrust, no engine. Here's his velocity vector. So right this second, he's going to hit this field right here below it. But he's going pretty fast. They land at about 130. So he's going to trade altitude for airspeed. This was not like the China landing plane. The China plane is aiming here, and there's slow airspeed, so he cannot trade airspeed for altitude. So watch how this will run up to the end of the runway, and he'll come and land. Again, you don't hear the pilot ever talking. It's just that wingman clearing everything. Okay, you're good. You got 3 down. You know, giving him the good, warm feeling. See how nervous he is? Adrenaline flowing. Down.
She'll stop, no problem. Thanks for the help. Good job.
Thanks for the help, no problem, huh? That wasn't a big deal. He goes home that night, hey, how was work today, honey?
Plane without any power, almost died.
Well, here's the deal. They actually do practice that a lot. I mean, when you're in a single-engine fighter, matter of fact, at Luke Air Force Base last week, we had planes overhead, and there's called the key, and they go to a specific spot over the airfield, and they put the engine to idle, and they practice this spiral thing. So he had practiced this. But again, to actually do it in real life is quite unusual. Okay, give me another vocabulary. Somebody learned something.
Flame out.
No, somebody else. Oh, here. We didn't have any over here. Give me a word.
Flame out, it's
What is a flame out?
it's a loss of power due to water or another substance drowning out the engine's heat source.
A flame out. Yes, that is a kind of an unusual situation, but it would make us, bottom line, is it good or bad? Bad. In both engines going out. A lot of times those happen when you fly into heavy downpour of water and it literally turns the engine off. Let's say you're at good altitude. Say you're at 20 or 30,000 feet. Can you turn the engine back on?
Yes.
Generally you can. I mean, if it flames out and you fly out of the water, out of the huge downpour, you better believe it. Till you die, you're going to be pushing that restart. And there's actually a pretty famous incident that happened a while back, probably 20 years now, of an intercontinental plane flying from west coast of America to Asia, and they're up at 40,000 feet, and they had known that a volcano had gone off on the Pacific Rim. I don't know if it was Alaska, maybe it was Alaska, but I mean, they knew that there was a volcanic eruption in a few hundred miles, and the plane's flying, and all of a sudden the plane engines turn off. And I'm telling you, can you imagine being in a plane with 400 passengers and it's quiet as this? That's a bad day, okay? There's no engines. But what happened was that the residue from the volcano had flamed out all 4 engines. At 40,000 feet. That was where the dust particles were. And so that guy kept pushing restart. And I think they got down to like 5,000 feet. I mean, they were ready to, crash and burn. But all of a sudden, 2 engines start. And these big planes can limp along with 2 or 3 engines versus 4. And they made it because they flew out of the volcanic ash. And so now they discovered that volcanic ash can make your planes flame out. And so when they have these huge volcano eruptions, what do they do about the volcanic ash?
Ground plane.
Fly low.
You have warnings and you fly around them or they shut them down, right? They had a huge eruption up in the northern Atlantic and it shut down all air traffic over Europe because the dust cloud went over Europe. That's crazy, but it does happen. All right, any other vocabulary words you guys have heard about? Help me. What about this table? Does this table have any? Yes, sir.
Rim ice.
What?
Rim ice.
Rim. How do you spell rim?
R-I-M-E.
Rime ice.
Rime ice. I love it. Rim ice, rime ice, it's all the same, right? All right, rime ice. Yes, that is a...
Brittle and frost-like ice formed by the instantaneous freezing of small, supercooled water droplets.
Exactly, and actually that's kind of interesting because you never think about the different types of ice that you have, especially here in Arizona. We don't have that much humidity. These are the different types of ice we have, guys. Clear, rime, or mixed, okay? The bottom line, which is bad?
Clear.
Ding, all of them. You don't ever want to fly with ice on your plane because it disrupts the smooth flow of the airflow around your airfoil. Clear ice is honestly more dangerous. You can't see the thing. And all of a sudden your plane is a lot heavier and you're looking out there and it goes, yeah, it doesn't look like anything to me. But it does. You can see by the way it works out, it's disrupted. How do you get ice off your plane?
Heat.
Heat is good.
But it's like there's the word for it.
Well, you have a de-icing systems, okay? Then some of them actually on the small planes like Cessnas, like we've flown, they actually have rubber boots along the front part of the airfoils just like this, and you push a button and the boots expand and it breaks off the ice. Or you fly out of the temperature band that the ice accumulated on and go to a hotter area or hotter area outside the band. And same thing with fighters. When we fly, of course we have a huge climb gradient. You may be climbing through, say, 10,000 feet of ice, and you look out and you got ice, but then you get above it at 40 or 50,000 feet. It's real dry up there. The sun's baking it off. It comes off. It's no big deal. Can ice mess up your engines?
Yes, sir.
That's a bad day, okay? When your ice gets on your turbine and then it breaks off, or it's in your fighter inlets and they break off and it goes into your engine, yeah, it can mess up. Ice can be bad. Yes, sir?
Has one like ever covered the turbine, not got in it, but actually just like made a sheet right over the
No.
turbine?
No. Another thing that's bad about ice is where else in ice can the plane get onto?
Your windows.
Windows. You ever try to drive a car with full ice?
Yeah.
No.
Imagine flying a plane at 500 miles an hour like that. That's a bad day. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You can't reach outside the plane and just clear it off. You don't have windshield wipers or anything. So that is a problem. That is a problem. No windshield wipers for fighters. For big planes you do, but they go smaller. All right, give me another word, guys. Give me another word. Did every table have one? What else interests you? Give me another word. Convective precipitation. That's a pretty good idea. How about convective precipitation? We actually went over this already in another lesson. We talked about microburst. Okay, here's a plane flying towards a squall or a storm, and there's lightning out there. How far away from that lightning should those planes be?
20 miles.
20 miles is the general thing, but I'm just telling you, microbursts are violent downdrafts. I actually told you about this exact situation here where your plane experiences different direction of airflow. This one exactly, plane's flying towards it, has a headwind, flies into it, and then has a tailwind and cannot fly. If you're in takeoff and landing, when you're near the stall speed, that can definitely hurt you, and obviously crash the plane or make it an uncomfortable situation. How do you avoid microbursts?
You don't go towards.
You don't fly towards them. No, you do not fly towards them at all. You get out of the way so that you don't have to be affected by a microburst. You don't fly towards it. If you have a huge thunderstorm in front of you, you simply turn around and land. Okay, nobody forces you to fly into that. What kills people is the tendency, and we'll get this later on in the book, it's called aviation psychology, a physiology, when you have prescomitis and your girlfriend, your wife, and your kids there, and you miss a soccer game, and you got to get home because your boss is telling you to get home, and you press home despite the aviation weather and the risk associated, and you kill yourself. And that has happened many, many times. Alrighty, microburst. Actually, we have shear warning weathers systems, that actually alert pilots of the changing directions of the winds, and that helps you. And again, basically, if you come down and you're a pilot and you see the airspeed increasing and then slowing down and you're getting ready to land, what might you want to do? Toga, yeah, take off and go around. Yeah, you should definitely go around. Put the throttle up and fly around. Having a lot of speed does not hurt anything at all in that type of situation. Okay, has anybody ever seen these? We talked about these.
Sandstone.
Again, guys, I'm telling you, the last 20 years, because of video cameras being common and cheap, I can imagine having this picture 20 years ago when I actually flew through sandstorms. They just, to me, on the ground, all of a sudden appear. But it's pretty cool. Sandstorms come through. How does that hurt you flying?
Badly.
What does it do to you?
It kills your visibility.
Can't see visibility, but we can fly at night. We can fly with instruments. What is it?
Clogs and flame.
Clogged your plane, can flame it out. Where the plane's supposed to be sucking down air, what's it sucking down? So imagine your car in the air filter, you dump a bunch of sand in. Is your car going to run?
No.
What's going to happen to your plane? Not going to run. Okay, so there you go. That's the exactly. This is kind of a famous situation that happened, and we in the West, meaning the West, North America does not have as many sandstorms as other parts of the world, right? We have lots of blue skies and no rain. Well, guess what? Other places have lots of rain. Florida's got a lot of rain. The deserts of the Middle East have sandstorms, I wouldn't say daily, but a lot. a lot more than we do. And so there was actually a rescue mission. It was classified. We tried to go in and rescue hostages. And so he planned all this great stuff in the Pentagon in America, and we went out and did this rescue mission, and guess what we ran into? Sandstorms. And the sandstorms wiped out our rescue mission and killed people. And it was a bad deal. You can see the one C-130s ran into 2 sandstorms. Helicopters had to do a bomb burst. They couldn't deal with it. They couldn't see anybody. And we were not prepared for the local environment of the desert. And I believe this is Iran. That was Iran. And it was a bad scene. One helicopter aborted, rotor damaged blade, navigation failed. And they aborted and we had 8 airmen and Marines died. It was a bad scene. But basically it was bad planning. We didn't think about what it was like, the local errors. And oh, by the way, we didn't have the forecasting ability that we do now with satellites to be able to see the sandstorms even coming. Nowadays, right, we're sitting in Phoenix and we can see the sandstorms coming up from Tucson, right? Matter of fact, just 2 weeks ago, there was a huge sandstorm in Tucson and they had a pile up on the interstate. Y'all here remember that? It killed like 10 people between here and Tucson because the sandstorm came across the interstate. And what do you do if you're driving in a car and the sandstorm comes across the interstate? What are you supposed to do?
Pull off the road and stop.
I mean, pull off the road. I would get completely off the road. And you leave your lights on, your blinkers, right?
Caution.
No, you don't leave anything on because the next guy driving behind goes, oh, there's a red light. I'm supposed to be following him. And there's no depth perception. You can't see anything. And they run into it. And that's exactly what happened to this crash down in Tucson a couple weeks ago. An out-of-state tourist had the sandstorm, and they stopped on the interstate and left their red lights on. So the next guy coming down sees the red light, goes, oh, I'm supposed to be following them, and whack, and then a big tractor trailer, and then it's like 20 car pileup. It was
What
bad.
if you're on a raised?
You have a bad day. You see the sandstorm coming, you exit. Okay? I mean, you do not push through that at all. It was a bad scene. All right, wake turbulence. What is wake turbulence, guys?
It's the turbulence behind airplanes.
The turbulence behind airplanes. Where? There we go, actually on page 209. Wake turbulence comes off of the generation of lift when a plane starts to take off. Take 208 and 209. When do we worry about wake turbulence?
Around airports, sir.
Airports, and I'm in a little Cessna. Go ahead. Well, I'm in a little Cessna, and so who do I have to worry about getting problems with wake turbulence? Who creates turbulence?
Big airplanes.
Wind.
Every airplane does, but big airplanes do. So on this type of example right here on page 208 to 209, if you're following a larger aircraft, you have to worry about your wake turbulence. You could be up on, and that's happened to me. I've been a Cessna following a big plane like a C-141 or a C-17. Yeah, it was a big plane in Charleston. As soon as I took off, the plane went zink right up on the side like that. Scared me to death, and I got it back down. But it was bad. I had wake turbulence caused by the vortices from the wing tips. So what you have to do is just wait till it takes off, and it's like 3 to 5 minutes. You have to wait, and then it gets cleared from that. This is an example of even airborne wake turbulences. They've had problems with this. The big, huge airliners fly above you, and they're in a smaller plane, and these vortices come out from the aircraft. The biggest problem is when the planes are flying slow, because they're trying to generate a lot of lift, and you can actually get wiped out. You can be turned upside downwards because of it. Alrighty, I think this is a concluding lesson 5. You're responsible for all the vocabulary and concepts in here. And I will have the test review up online this week.